Pressure does not create weakness, it reveals it. Most men believe they lose control because situations become extreme. That is a lie. Control is not lost in pressure, it is exposed. Miyamoto Musashi understood this before he ever picked up a sword. He saw that men do not fail when the moment is heavy, they fail because their foundation is hollow. When pressure arrives, there is no time to think, no space to prepare, no room to negotiate. Whatever lives beneath your surface steps forward. That is why most men panic. That is why voices rise, hands shake, decisions fracture. Not because they are weak, but because they trained comfort instead of command. The Musashi method was never written for peaceful days. It was designed for moments where everything tightens at once, where fear speaks loudly, where emotion demands control. This is stillness and direction. If you are here for motivation, this path will feel cold. But if you are here to learn how control is maintained when everything pushes against you, stay. And if this discipline resonates with you, like the video and subscribe, not for entertainment, but so you remain connected when pressure tests you again. Musashi did not believe control came from confidence. Confidence shatters under stress. He believed control came from pre-decision, the decision made before pressure arrives. Most men wait until the moment to decide how they will act. By then, it is too late. Pressure hijacks the body. Emotion floods the system. Reaction replaces intention. Musashi trained men to remove choice at the critical moment. Not because choice is bad, but because choice under pressure is illusion. When the mind is flooded, you do not choose, you default. So Musashi trained the default. He stripped action down to what remained when emotion was loudest. Simple commands, clean movements, no emotional permission required. This is why he remained calm when others rushed, why he waited when others panicked, why he struck once while others exhausted themselves. Control was not something he searched for in the moment, it was something he had already decided. Modern men confuse control with suppression. They try to hold themselves together when pressure hits. Musashi saw that as weakness. True control is not restraint in chaos, it is alignment before chaos. He trained stillness not as passivity, but as dominance over reaction. When pressure arrived, his body moved without asking his emotions for approval. Fear could exist. Anger could exist. Neither was allowed to lead. This is why the method feels forbidden today, because it removes the comforting lie that you can figure it out later. There is no later under pressure. There is only what you have already trained. Most men collapse not because the moment is too hard, but because they never decided who they would be when it arrived. Musashi decided early, and because of that, pressure never owned him. This chapter is only the threshold. The disciplines ahead will show how control is built daily, in silence, in discomfort, and in moments no one sees. Because the man who masters control under pressure does not become loud, he becomes unshakable. Musashi believed hesitation was not a reaction. It was a habit. Men did not hesitate because they were unsure. They hesitated because they had never decided in advance. Pressure does not give you time to think. It removes thinking altogether. What remains is instinct. Musashi trained instinct deliberately. He understood that the mind under stress does not rise to intention, it falls to preparation. Most men prepare nothing. They wait for the moment. They trust confidence. They rely on emotion. Musashi considered this suicidal. He taught that every important decision must be made before pressure appears. Not abstract decisions, not vague intentions, specific commands. When fear appears, I move forward. When insult appears, I remain silent. When chaos erupts, I slow down. These decisions were trained until they became automatic. This is why Musashi seemed calm while others rushed. He was not improvising, he was executing. Modern men believe adaptability means freedom. Musashi knew adaptability without structure is panic. The warrior did not ask himself what to do in the moment. He had already answered. Training removed uncertainty. Musashi forced his students into repetition not to perfect technique, but to remove choice. The body learned what to do when the mind went quiet. This is why he favored simple movements, simple strategies, simple actions. Complexity collapses under pressure. Simplicity survives. Men who rely on cleverness break first. Men who rely on clarity endure. Musashi did not train for ideal conditions. He trained for confusion. Uneven ground, poor weapons, unfair odds. Because pressure does not arrive politely. When the moment came, Musashi did not feel brave. He felt familiar. He had already been there in training. Modern men experience pressure as shock. The Musashi-trained mind experiences it as signal. Not danger, signal. A signal to execute what was already decided. This discipline feels unnatural today because modern life teaches endless options. Musashi removed options. Options create hesitation. Hesitation creates collapse. He reduced action to essentials. Stand correctly, see clearly, move decisively. Nothing else mattered. This is why his method appears rigid to soft minds. They mistake structure for limitation. Musashi knew structure creates freedom where chaos destroys it. When you decide before the moment arrives, pressure loses leverage. It cannot negotiate. It cannot confuse. It can only reveal what you have trained. And if what you have trained is discipline, pressure becomes an ally. Not because it is gentle, but because it is honest. The next discipline goes deeper, because deciding early is not enough if emotion is still allowed to interfere. And Musashi did not tolerate interference. Musashi understood something most men never confront. The body always reacts before the mind explains. Heart rate rises, breath shortens, muscles tighten. By the time a man thinks he has lost control, the body has already taken command. So Musashi did not begin control in the mind. He began it in the body. Under pressure, the body becomes the gatekeeper. If the gate collapses, the mind follows. This is why Musashi trained posture before philosophy, breath before strategy, stillness before speed. He taught that a body out of alignment cannot support a disciplined mind. When fear enters, the shoulders rise. When anger enters, the jaw tightens. When panic enters, movement becomes rushed. Musashi trained his students to recognize these signals and correct them instantly. Not later, not after reflection, immediately. Straighten the spine, lower the shoulders, slow the breath. These were not calming techniques. They were control mechanisms. The body was trained to return to order before emotion could escalate. Modern men attempt to think their way out of pressure. Musashi considered that backward. You could not reason with a nervous system in alarm. You must command it. Training was repetitive and unforgiving. Holding posture while exhausted, maintaining breath while insulted, moving slowly while adrenaline surged. This was not to build endurance. It was to build reliability. The body learned one rule: do not break alignment under stress. Once alignment was stable, the mind had something solid to stand on. Musashi wrote that chaos outside is inevitable. Chaos inside is optional, but only if the body is trained first. This discipline is why Musashi could face multiple opponents without rushing, why his movements appeared slow yet always arrived first. He was not faster, he was controlled. Modern men mistake speed for dominance. Musashi knew dominance comes from timing. Timing requires stillness. Stillness requires bodily command. Without this discipline, emotion hijacks movement. Movement creates mistakes. Mistakes multiply under pressure. Musashi eliminated the chain at the source. Control the body, the mind will follow. This discipline is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. You cannot blame emotion when your posture is collapsing. You cannot blame fear when your breath is uncontrolled. Responsibility becomes immediate. That is why most men avoid this work, because the body does not lie. The next discipline will push further, because control of the body means nothing if attention is scattered, and pressure always attacks focus next. Musashi taught that pressure does not defeat men by force, it defeats them by distraction. When the moment becomes intense, the mind tries to track everything at once: sounds, movement, possibilities, consequences. This scattering feels like awareness. It is not. It is leakage. A leaking mind loses control even if the body remains steady. So Musashi trained something most men never practice: deliberate narrowing of attention. Not blindness, not ignorance, precision. He believed that a mind trying to see everything ends up seeing nothing clearly. Under pressure, the warrior was taught to reduce reality to what mattered now. One opponent, one opening, one breath, one step. Nothing else existed. This discipline was brutal at first. The mind rebelled. It wanted to scan, to calculate, to imagine outcomes. Musashi cut this behavior off. He instructed his students to anchor attention to physical reality: the feel of the ground, the weight of the weapon, the rhythm of breathing. These were not calming tricks, they were focus locks. When attention was locked, fear lost fuel. Anxiety needs imagination. Focus removes it. Modern men drown in mental noise under pressure. They replay mistakes, they predict failure, they imagine judgment. Musashi removed time from the mind. No past, no future, only execution. He wrote that perception sharpens when attention is narrow and complete. A scattered mind reacts, a focused mind decides. This is why Musashi could fight multiple opponents without panic. He did not see chaos, he saw sequence, one movement at a time. Modern men try to multitask under stress. Musashi trained singularity. One task fully executed beats 10 half-considered options. This discipline feels unnatural today because modern life rewards distraction, constant input, constant switching, constant reaction. Musashi trained the opposite. He trained staying with one action until it was complete. When pressure increased, focus narrowed further, not wider. This is where most men fail. They widen attention when they should sharpen it. Musashi sharpened until only necessity remained. Once focus was mastered, pressure could no longer overwhelm the mind, because nothing extra was being carried. The next discipline will remove the final weakness, because even a focused mind can break if it fears what might happen next. And Musashi did not allow fear of outcome to enter the equation. Musashi knew that control collapses at one final point: outcome. Not pain, not effort, not even death. Expectation. Most men lose control because they are attached to how things should end. Victory, approval, survival, being seen as competent. Under pressure, this attachment becomes panic. The mind races ahead of the moment. It imagines loss. It imagines failure. It imagines judgment. And the body follows that imagined future. Musashi severed this weakness completely. He trained warriors to act without bargaining for results, not because outcomes did not matter, but because thinking about them during action destroys control. When the mind jumps ahead, attention leaks. When attention leaks, timing is lost. When timing is lost, pressure wins. So Musashi taught detachment at the most dangerous point, the end. Before a duel, he did not visualize victory. He did not rehearse celebration. He did not prepare speeches. He prepared execution. The outcome was irrelevant during action. This is why he could remain calm when defeat seemed possible. Fear of loss could not destabilize him because loss was already accepted. This was not pessimism, it was clarity. Modern men attach identity to outcomes. Win and they are valuable, lose and they collapse. Musashi rejected this entirely. Identity came from conduct, not result. Did you move correctly? Did you maintain control? Did you execute what was required? If yes, the outcome was secondary. This freed the mind completely. No pressure to impress, no fear of embarrassment, no anxiety about consequence, only presence. Musashi wrote that a man who fears the result cannot see the opening in front of him because his eyes are already somewhere else. He trained himself to stand fully inside the moment without leaning forward into hope or backward into fear. This discipline was ruthless. The ego resisted it violently because the ego lives on outcome. Remove outcome and ego loses leverage. That is why this method feels forbidden today. Modern systems depend on outcome-obsessed men, men who chase validation, men who fear failure. Musashi produced men who were dangerous because they could act cleanly with nothing to protect. When outcome was removed, pressure lost its final weapon. Nothing left to threaten, nothing left to promise. Only execution remained. The next and final discipline completes the method, because even a man who controls body, focus, and outcome can still fail if he retreats when resistance peaks, and Musashi did not train men to retreat. Musashi believed that control is not proven when things go well. It is proven at the exact moment resistance peaks. When fatigue speaks, when fear tightens, when the mind offers one final escape, retreat. Not physical retreat alone, but internal retreat. Lowering standards, breaking form, abandoning discipline for relief. This is where most men lose control. Not because they are overwhelmed, but because they choose comfort over alignment. Musashi trained his students for this moment relentlessly. He taught them that pressure always rises in waves, and the most dangerous wave is the one that convinces you it will never end. That is when men quit. So the final discipline was simple and brutal. Hold the line. Not aggressively, not emotionally, correctly. Maintain posture, maintain breath, maintain focus. Do not advance recklessly. Do not retreat carelessly. Remain where you are until the moment changes. Musashi understood that pressure is not constant. It peaks, then breaks, but only if you do not abandon position. Men who panic rush forward. Men who fear retreat backward. Both lose structure. Musashi held position. This is why he could face multiple opponents without collapsing. He did not chase advantage. He did not flee threat. He waited inside alignment. Modern men misunderstand this discipline. They think strength means forcing outcomes. Musashi knew strength means remaining intact until the opening appears. This discipline applied beyond combat, in work, in solitude, in long periods where progress was invisible. Hold the line when motivation disappears. Hold the line when results delay. Hold the line when no one is watching. This is where identity is forged, not in intensity, but in refusal to break. Musashi accepted death long before it arrived. Because of this, pressure could not threaten him. A man who has accepted the worst cannot be manipulated by fear of it. This is why his control never collapsed. He did not rush toward victory. He did not run from loss. He remained. The Musashi method was never about dominance over others. It was about dominance over collapse. When everything pushes against you, do not look for escape. Look for alignment. Stand correctly, breathe correctly, act correctly, and wait. Pressure will either move or reveal the opening. Either way, you do not break. This is control under pressure. Not loud, not dramatic, permanent. The method is complete. What remains is application, daily, quiet, unseen. Because control is not something you activate in crisis. It is something you protect every day so that crisis has nothing to take. The line is drawn. Whether you hold it is no longer a question of knowledge. It is a question of identity.